right. Okay, guys, this is Elizabeth Kwam from Mangeti Grove, and I have with me a dear friend who I've been talking to for 2 years now, or more. This is Brittany, and she has been a dear friend. I am the mother of Nayeli, and when she was about 2.5 years old, for those that are new to my channel, she was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called leukodystrophy. And they told me they were presuming that it was lysosomal storage disorder, and which is metachromatic leukodystrophy. And, or they didn't know, just a different kind of leukodystrophy because of the way the brain scan was, diffused white matter, demyelinization, and they told me she would die between 3 to 5 years. They said, don't worry, she won't die right away, but basically she will just kind of depreciate and die, you know.
So, I'm Brittany Dean, and mother of Tucker, who was he was 7 years old at the time of diagnosis. And he got a diagnosis of metachromatic leukodystrophy. Yep.
Yeah, so you connected with me about the time when Nayeli was starting to heal, because I was changing things about what I was doing, trying to figure out any way. The audio's messing up, I think. I think it's because I have this coming. Trying to finagle any way that I could to try to help her heal.
Right. You were actually, you had posted a video and you were out in your garden and you had Nayeli and you had noticed, the drunken state from her diet of gluten, a gluten allergy. And then I was like, you were talking about, how eucalyptus has been beneficial. And I'm like, I'm also onto eucalyptus. It has been beneficial for Tucker as well. And that's when I reached out to you and I was like, she's with me. I know this mom is too. This is not, what is this? We are going to find.
Although they found genetics, and we're not delusional about knowing the genetics and knowing what is going on, the effects of the environment have a big impact on how we express our genetics. Yes. Even.
And we are genetically susceptible to things in our environment, our exposure.
Yes, all of us. But to some a larger degree than others, just like leukodystrophy, metachromatic leukodystrophy, is a lysosomal storage disorder. The lymosome, our little small stomachs in our bodies, get to a point of bursting because there's the enzyme disruption. There's less enzyme in metachromatic leukodystrophy of aryl sulfatase A.
Aryl sulfatase A.
Yeah, in that little lymosome, and it causes disturbance. But when there is disruption, we have this cascade of the necessity goes higher for this enzyme as well.
And I will make a point here that there were so many things along the way that weren't correctly lining up. And I think that's where, we just kept trying to understand what was happening to our children. Because, sure, he had that enzyme. For example, talking about enzymes, his enzymes test, sure, he was excreting aryl sulfatase A, but also many other enzymes, which for other indications.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. In the note, it says, and multiple other enzymes. And not only that, he had multiple mutations of genes as well, and they are continuing to update his genes or his genetics testing. And,
Oh, it's because of the new diagnoses of different genetics or something?
So I think that, this is how genetics is on the basis of history, right? I mean, they're trying to link certain genes to ailments that people are experiencing.
Yes.
And so the fact that they're just trying to get ahead of the curve, and I get that, and they've done so much with genetics, but it's still not.
Yeah, it's almost to our demise, because when somebody hears the word genetic, they just fall flat.
Yeah.
And they just think, this is what it is. This is
Right.
what it's going to be. And that absolutely isn't true for a lot of people. And when you go for genetic testing, they're usually testing a section of your DNA. They're not testing the whole thing for everyone. So when somebody goes in for testing, they're not testing this whole barrage of leukodystrophy. They're not testing everyone for leukodystrophy that goes in. So they may have those genes if you randomly wanted to test your genes.
Yeah.
They might have those genes, but it doesn't show up, because metachromatic leukodystrophy can appear at any life stage. It's almost, in one paper, it was talking about it has like an autoimmune function. How many more autoimmune diseases do we have now?
Yeah.
30 to 40% of these children are of unknown genetics. And it's almost advantageous to be in that sector, because then you think, okay, then what could it be? And you strive.
Yep.
But when a lot of people hear about, oh, he's got these genetics, they lay down and die, which is awful. But that's the way that the conventional paradigm is taking things. It's easy on the doctor. Well, we found out what was wrong with you. People want to know what's wrong with me.
They want that diagnosis.
They want the diagnosis, but it's sad when they just are like, well, there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
Moving on, like, this is awful, but moving on. And
here's ways to try to support it at home.
yeah. My neurologist lately was kind of irritated with me because I wanted an updated MRI, and he's basically not the specialist of leukodystrophy that I need. She is healed so much. Clinically, she doesn't show anything, but he's just like, and the MRI still shows, some of the white matter disruption. He's like, she's got some other kind of enzyme deficiency. I'm like, okay.
Now they're just pawning it off on other things.
Well, not only that, is she healed? Like, clinically, she's healed. So who cares if she has an enzyme deficiency? What I'm doing then would be more validated in helping.
Right.
Helping her diet, helping her anyway. Okay, so you reached out to me, and we were like, hey, at first I was like, thinking, oh, that's really sad they found the genetic. But then as I was diving into the whole mold, because I had just learned about mold and how it caused the gluten allergy in my daughter, which was causing more of a reflection of the symptoms that were present with her enzyme deficiency state.
Yes.
It's just disrupting. But so prior to diagnosis, you saw effects of gluten on him.
Yeah. Well, so the first thing, backing up, the very first thing, it was, we would go on hikes, and he was fatigued. And I'm talking, and the reason why I noticed this is that my other children would be with us, and they would just run circles around him.
Yeah.
He was just tired. He complained of knee pain. So it was fatigue, knee pain, joint pain.
Joint pain, which comes with mold toxicity, fatigue, mold toxicity.
And then it was, he was very spacey. He kept going, like, spacing out, and we thought maybe ADHD. So we started down that. But that was, then it was mood behaviors, like,
Emotional?
Yeah, emotional, like trying to open the door while the car was moving, and like things like that, like just very risky behavior. Yeah.
Like
And
less
then,
inhibition.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I kind of realized like the whole fight or flight
Yes.
was diminishing.
Yeah.
That's where I saw that. And then it was, you know, he got into this kind of delirium state. When his pediatrician was evaluating him, that he had him walk down the hallway, and it was literally like he was floating, and
Yeah.
he was in a delirium. He really
Yeah.
was. So that was the beginnings, and at that time we were also like knew that he had some dental, had a cavity or two, and we were trying to get that done. By the time that it was, you know, it took us 8 months to find a person who would touch him.
Yeah.
Multiple referrals, but no one would. So.
Yeah. So he had some like dental infection in his, and we know that, and you guys can look it up too, we know that mold toxicity can cause, the black mold can cause tooth decay as well, and fatigue, and multiple enzyme issues, because it depreciates tons of enzyme, especially, and this is kind of more of an intro video, but we found that you found mycotoxin, stachybotrys, the trichothecene, trichothecene in his urine.
Yes.
Now, Nayeli had gilotoxin to a very high degree and ochratoxin to a lesser degree, but still significant.
Yeah.
And so they both experienced constipation some, like Nayeli not so much as fast, but he had constant chronic constipation for a long time.
Going back to the beginning of symptoms, he had a constant cold as well for like
Yes.
a
Oh my goodness, I'm learning new details here, and it all is just more solidifying.
Yeah, I just remember getting him from my ex, and I would drain him, like get him right into the, get it all get all that mucus out of there. But we were constantly fighting congestion.
Yeah.
At the very beginning.
Which is very common for mold toxicity as well.
Yep.
Very common. Jill Christus says it starts in the nose and it ends in the nose, like oftentimes. Now we did not to be like go off the trail too much, but we did test for Marcons. We don't have Marcons, but that doesn't mean that there's not fungus,
right,
inside and causing difficulties. But that nose, you're always breathing in your nose, breathing in your lungs, getting in your eyes, your ears.
Exposures.
Yes,
exposures.
Definitely. And then, so genetics, like, okay, so we didn't find genetics specifically for Nayeli, but we do know that like even the neurologist is kind of like put off with my desire to dive in still, which is really strange. Like, I know that her brain is not optimal right now. Like, I know that there's still an issue underlying. I mean, so it is important and smart for us to continue to try to see her brain, to see what's going on. And he wants me to fly to Philadelphia, but I'm like, what have you guys done for me? Nothing. So it's very frustrating that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
But the environment, so glyphosate specifically. Glyphosate can affect sulfur pathways massively. And we know this from Dr. Seneff, who's done a lot of research, loads of research, and she even said in a chapter of her book, this is something that we don't want to screw up, because just look at these lysosomal storage disorder issues, one of which is MLD. And then I think some of Parkinson's disease and some of these other ones also have a component of lysosomal storage disorder.
Well, it's the way that I see it is like our genes make us susceptible to the things in the environment, and it affects each one of us differently.
Yes.
And that's why we have a whole range of symptoms.
Yep.
Some children are having hearing issues.
Autism.
Yeah, sight issues.
And everyone's genetically so different. Like there's just little bits of, okay, I've got this genetic and this genetic and this genetic and
Yep.
So it just compiles.
There's just so much to be found still.
Yeah.
As genetics goes, a lot needs.
Yeah.
I know that they're trying to get ahead of the curve here, but honestly, they're not doing us mothers any justice because this is the worst.
We need functional medicine on standard healthcare. And maybe we end with that just right now is like, I'm so happy. I don't know if I'll bring Robert Kennedy Jr. up. I don't know if Bobby's gonna win, but I hope he does. And if he doesn't win this time, I hope he wins the next time because we need, or someone like him. I do believe he can win. Someone like him that can push a change. Like he will be a strong arm on a change trajectory for our children and for our nation and then for the world. Because really when they look at America and they're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, mycotoxins and mold exposure and all this glyphosate, synergistically working with it, marrying each other in the body and then wreaking havoc. Awful.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a series and I'm going to put up a playlist of me and you talking about what's going on. So right now, Nayeli doesn't have clinical symptoms. Right now, he has clinical symptoms. Yep. But we're going to pound this in till we're proven wrong.